Welcome to another episode of Shift Always Happens. I'm Valyi, and I'll be your guide as we talk about all the changes that happen as we rise in age in a society where they're telling you that when you reach a certain age, you've got to step back. But we're going to talk about all the ways that we can keep moving forward, all the ways that we can keep thriving. So, yes, shift happens, but the question is, how do we move past that? How do we find opportunity? How do we still stay engaged and keep thriving? That's the discussion. Today, I want to talk about, are we the superhero of the story, or are we like the victim just waiting for someone to save us? How do we navigate the difference between these two issues, right? Then I think that you have to ask yourself a lot of questions, and you have to be honest with yourself. And you have to also understand that you have to be willing to make mistakes and that be okay. Because a lot of times deciding to be the superhero of your story means that you take responsibility for the mistakes, for the challenges that you are facing, for the big scary steps that you're going to take. And a lot of times we feel that if we could just get validation, if we could just get a lifeline, if we could just get someone to say, yeah, you're doing something good, that then makes you feel like then you can be the superhero. When in actuality, all of that comes from within. You are the superhero of your story because you decide to be. Every night when you go to sleep, and or right before you're going to sleep, you start to formulate some thoughts. And if you don't take time to meditate and clear your mind, you pull in a lot of the negative stuff from the day. And what happens is that as you're sleeping, your life starts to build a story for your future based on those inputs of information. The input of information that you don't believe in yourself, that you don't trust yourself, that maybe you cannot make the right final decisions, that you have to get all this input from other people. Or if you change that script, it could be that when you go before you go to sleep, those inputs are different, and we'll talk about that. So what do we do, and why do we want to be the superhero of our lives? To me, what it means is that I get to decide the life I want to live as best as I can. Because there are some circumstances like financial and maybe responsibilities that you have. But even if those challenges are in the way, you can still have a belief system that takes you past that. When you're thinking about your life and you're deciding if subconsciously or consciously, if you are the superhero or you're the victim of the story, one of the things you have to remember is that you are the writer. You are the one that's writing the story. You're the one that's putting the plots and deciding where this main character is going to go in life. And that's actually a pretty exciting thing. When you think about it that way and you start saying to yourself, I am the creator, I am the writer, I am the one that's building this story, it kind of gets exciting. Because when you go to sleep or throughout the day and you start saying to yourself all the things you can't do or all the limitations you have, you are telling your mind and your subconscious that there's only so much that you can do in life. And so what happens is your field of vision becomes limited. If you don't tell yourself there are opportunities out there, if you don't tell yourself that there's nothing that you can accomplish, or there's nothing you can't accomplish, or am I saying that right? But you know what I mean. Then you are creating a view that you only see the things that you can't do. It's almost like, oh, and I forget the name of it. It's that phenomenon that when you decide that you want to buy a new car and you're like, oh, I want to buy a BMW, or I want to buy, let's say, a RAV4, or whatever the heck that car is, right? Once you make that decision that you want to buy that car, you start to see that car everywhere. And you're like, what? Everyone has this car? You see it all different colors, and you just see it all the time because your mind is now focused on that thing that you want. And it's the same thing with how you are writing the story of your life. If you write a limited story, you will only see a limited amount of opportunity. So the goal is to say to yourself, I am actually the superhero of my story that I'm writing, which means that I can break through the walls, I can fly over the mountains, and I can achieve all that I want to achieve. And it doesn't matter my age, it doesn't matter where I am in life, it doesn't matter. Any of those things don't matter because if you do study on people that are successful. And success, I think, is very subjective. Many people think it's having millions of dollars or billions of dollars. But maybe success to you is getting up in the morning, doing the things that excite you, having great friends, being able to go out to dinner, maybe creating beautiful art or writing a story or visiting your family, and then being able to get into your comfy bed at night and do it all again the next day. Maybe that's your success. Maybe your success is you've had this book idea in your head for a millennia, and now you're going to write it down. You're going to get the tools and you're going to start writing down your thoughts and building this book. Or maybe it's starting a new company. And the interesting thing now is that you can start companies online, and you don't have to have a brick and mortar place, but you can maybe sell your artwork online. You can sell graphics. You can have your own storefront and sell clothes that you curate from other places. There's just so many different opportunities. You can create workbooks and sell them. And that is building a company. That is doing a thing that maybe you've thought of in your life. So the goal of today's conversation, especially for women who are rising in age, is that you, especially now, since you have all this experience, you could write a really fantastic story for yourself. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to take a piece of paper, and it could be anytime. You could do it right before bed, and it doesn't have to be all at once. It could be a little at a time. You can start building that story. Every night, get yourself a journal and start building that story. You start with I am. I am is a very powerful statement. It's not something that's in the future. It's not something that's far off. It's telling the universe that right now, here and now, you are the thing you want to be. So start with I am, and don't give yourself limits. Say, I am a writer. I am a content person who wakes up every morning ready to tackle the world, that is going to get up and write her book and going to start building the platform where I'm going to have my business, because I am a business owner. I am a writer. I am an artist. Whatever those things are, and just write it. The next thing, and the most important thing, because I know you've heard of manifestation before, and this is basically a type of manifestation. But the interesting thing about manifestation is, and a lot of people don't talk about it, is not just declaring it, but it's feeling and believing it. And that's what happens in the subconscious level. That's why, as you're writing it, think about yourself in that moment, that you are the superhero and the writer of this future. And you are so happy about it. You are so confident about it. You know that you can do this. You are going to start building a feeling of how you can make these things happen. And then as you go to sleep, you're thinking about this world that you're writing and building about, and you're not putting limitations on it. And you go to sleep, you go through the day, wake up in the morning, feel good about what you've written the night before, go through the day, keep feeling good about your story, and then the next night or that night, add to the story. add to the feeling, building the story for your subconscious to kind of ruminate and work it on. So that's one of the most important things to do, because if you do the opposite, right, as a builder of your story, as the composer of your life, if you spend your time talking about all the things you can't do and how hard it is and how it's impossible because of your age, because of your money situation, because of how bad people were to you, you start to see boxes. And what I want to try to do is to share with you that you can create new boxes, boxes that are unlimited. Someone asked me something very interesting about energy and positive thinking. It was in relation to, if we ask for too much of a good thing, do we tap out? And my answer is and was that it's unlimited. The amount of things, possibility, energy, good fortune, it's unlimited. You can tap into it forever. The only thing that can stop you is if you believe that it's limited. And I believe that it's unlimited. If good fortune were limited, then what? There would only be like 10 people that had good luck, or 10 people that had fortune, or 10 people that were happy, or whatever the number is. But it would be a small number. And really, happiness and fulfillment and the belief that you've achieved a goal many times is how you define it. If you believe that being happy means being a millionaire, then you have to figure out how to be that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you will be happy. So you really have to write and carve that out and understand what happiness can mean for you, what fulfillment means for you, what enjoyment means for you. Because I've seen plenty people that are so absolutely happy. They have smaller homes, they're comfortable, and they don't need more. When I was reading Plato, there's a interesting conversations about needs versus wants, in that needs are things that have an end. Wants are unlimited. And many times people get trapped into the want cycle when really they have everything they need and they can be fulfilled, but they want more. And now the question is, why do you want more? Do you want more because it will make you happy, or it is in comparison to somebody else, right? I want more because I want to be like them, because they are richer, so they must be happier. So I want that level of happiness. And that may or may not give you the level of happiness that you think that you desire. You can also be happy with the things that you need and still desire to want more, but that doesn't mean that you're not happy where you are. And the interesting thing about manifestation, now that I've made that little segue, is that when you declare that you are happy where you are actually bringing in a higher vibration of energy, but you're also writing the future as you are, because you are the writer of the story that you're building. So you're happy where you are now, but you can still write a story that says, I am living in a bigger house. I am attracting the dollars I need to buy a bigger home, because I see myself planting a garden. So I need a little more space. I need to invite more people to my home for visits. So I need a couple of extra bedrooms. And you build that story, but it's not built on degrading or beating up where you are today. What it is that you're happy where you are, but you're seeing a different future. And now you're building that future. So you still have the happiness and being content of where you are, but now you're building a new story. And so when you go to sleep at night, that story is being pushed into your subconscious and building. One of the ways to think about it is that the things that you want to attract in your life. That we're talking energy. And energy never gets destroyed. It transfers, but it never gets destroyed. Energy is always moving. It's something that is a constant. And so you need to tap into the energy that's out there, and you have to tap into a higher vibration. So this way you can get more energy and you can really feed your subconscious. So I know this was a little bit of maybe out there for some of you because you want some concrete answers, but I'm telling you, one of the ways to achieve your dreams is to start inward. You build your life from the inside out. So you have to build it and build that story inside. So this way it can show itself to you on the outside. And then you'll find the opportunities. You'll see the opportunities. You have the excitement to keep looking and going after the things that you want to go after. So that's how you become the superhero of your life. You write the story, you believe in that story, and then you know that as life is built from the inside out, that you are building and you are positioning yourself in a way that you can help yourself achieve the dreams that you want. And it doesn't matter your age. Sometimes physically, as you get older and as you're rising, maybe your muscle mass starts to decline and maybe you have some health issues. So the question is not that you can't achieve it. You have to write a slightly different story that can make you happy, that you can feel fulfilled. Every time you say, I can't because, you are lowering the energy that you are vibrationally putting out there. You are then telling your subconscious that you really don't want the things that you are writing down or seeing, that you don't believe the things that you believe that you're going to achieve. It's so important to learn how to write a story and then believe it and then feel it. Because remember, you're building your life from the inside out. And that's why everybody is the owner of the story that they're creating. If you're building a story for yourself and you're saying you're the superhero, but there's a little voice inside the back of your head saying, no, you're not. You're not a superhero. You're not going to do this. It takes away from your story and your subconscious hears it. So that is why it takes practice. Nothing happens overnight. Anything worth doing takes time. And what I want you to do is take the time to keep pushing forward and thinking about how you want to build the life that you want to live. So one of the visualization techniques I like to do is I like to see myself standing either on top of a building or on top of a high mountain, looking down with my hands on my hip and my cape flowing ever so softly behind me. As I feel the warm breeze on my face, I'm looking down at the life that I want to experience and that I know that I can certainly do it and that I can certainly achieve what I need to achieve. And if I feel stuck, I can find the answers. I can ask the right people. I can read the right books. I can see who's doing things that are similar to what I want to do. And I do those things. I don't give myself limitations. I give myself roadmaps and pathways to get from point A to point B. So shift always happens. Right. And we're always thinking about the changes, and especially as we're rising in age. But one of the things I always say, and you hear me say this on a lot of my podcasts, is that it doesn't matter what age you are, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, you can still contribute. I want you to think differently with regards to asking yourself, if you are the superhero or if you are the victim of your story, know that you are the writer of that story. You have the pen in your hand, and that pen is creating that story at the subconscious level. And every night, I want you to write a little bit of that story, and then I want you to feel the joy it brings to experiencing that story or that part of the story that you're writing. So, what do you think? I'm telling you that this is what I believe, that all the research I've done, all the books that I've read, all the thinking in terms of psychology and philosophy and mindset, and just watching people and learning how people move, I know that there is something to understanding how to write your story, how to live it before and feel it before it even happens, because then you're attracting the right field energy. You're attracting and you're seeing the opportunities to help you achieve what you need to achieve in order to live that story. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Shift Always Happens. I hope that you continue to write the story that will help you be the superhero, and you see yourself on the top of that mountain or building, looking down on the life that you want to live as you feel the power that you are creating. So thanks for joining me. I look forward to our next episode. If you're interested in learning more, visit me at my Women with Dynamic Purpose website, which is www.dynamic-purpose.com, or just leave me a note below. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I'd love to know if you want to know more about this conversation. And we can dive even deeper. Until next time, shift always happens, sure. But what we do and how we thrive through the shifts is the discussion.